podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
All right, I'm here with Tom. We're going to spend most of this podcast talking about the Mason Greenwood situation, I think, and maybe a little preview of Spurs on Saturday. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, it's been United have been a mess for the past, 10 years.
18 years?
Yeah, pretty much 18 years. But this week has felt, it's gone to a new level, hasn't it?
Oh, it really has. I mean, cut to the chase. My instinct is to say, I know this is driven a lot by the owners, of course, the indecisiveness and the cravenness. But I think Arnold should go. He's the CEO. He's responsible. This has absolutely been, to paraphrase, a shit show in a dumpster fire. Just awful, awful leadership from United. So I guess we should go back and, how did this start? And it seems to have started with Adam Crafton uncovering... Adam Crafton, by the way, just the best in the biz. United fan, he's just awesome.
I mean, I think I've said on the show before that he's one of, if not the best sports journalist out there. But this week, especially, and throughout this whole Mason Greenwood situation, he's just been incredible. And he's changed the whole discourse of this this whole situation almost single-handedly with his reporting this week. So it's phenomenal.
I mean, I think generally speaking, I feel not very optimistic for the future of journalism, especially investigative journalism, of which this is at least partly that. But Adam, and listeners may remember, I talked to Karim Zidane a little while ago, and Matt Slater and Tarek Panja. There are a few people that make me feel a bit more optimistic about the future of this and digging into the bones of corporate malfeasance, which this is most certainly it. So let's go back. I mean, what did Adam do? So I think it was on Wednesday, he uncovered that United had decided to bring Mason Greenwood back. They'd decided in early August, and they told the leadership team at United and prepared materials to do that. Obviously, some people are uncomfortable with that at Manchester United. There are lots of good people there, I should say that from the start. I know there are. But unfortunately, they're not supported by good leadership. So Adam uncovered they were going to do that, and that they eventually delayed it. And they delayed the announcement of Greenwood returning. And it seems like they delayed that announcement because they wanted to brief, not consult, the women's team or the three players that are currently with England in the World Cup final. And so that seems to be where it started. United asked for a delay in responding. That delay was not because they were formulating an answer. It was because they were trying to control the narrative by putting out their own statement, which was one of the most pathetic, double-speak nonsense corporate statements I've ever read. And that not just in football, just ever. Just unbelievably bad. If I was advising them, and I spent a very long time in management consultancy advising CEOs, I'd resign them. I would advise them to all quit because they are fucking pathetic human beings, absolute fucking cum stains of just awful people. Anyway, sorry. I can't believe how bad they've handled this. Sorry, Tom. I'll stop ranting now.
No. It's completely justified. Obviously, there's the executive branch, which is just been an absolute car crash. And like you say, there are great people clearly working at United. From Adam Crafton's reporting, it sounds like there are significant numbers who are willing to resign. I think he said even there was potentially they were looking into strike action, some of them.
Right.
Some of the employees. But then it also goes to Ten Hag, who, by all accounts from the Athletics reporting, he is fully on board with bringing Mason Greenwood back into the fold, and also it makes me wonder what the players are thinking, and I wonder how much of the pressure that is on the executive branch comes from that side. I mean, Mason Greenwood's clearly going to have friends in the dressing room. We've not heard. This is pure speculation on my part, but I do wonder like what the players do think about this, because they are going to be very powerful people at the club, and Mason Greenwood is going to have friends in that dressing room. And Mason Greenwood, you would imagine, is probably in the ears of the players saying, try your best to try and get me back in the squad, because this is my last chance, kind of thing. And you do wonder like what kind of pressure's coming from there, and especially if and it's only been said so far that Ten Hag is the person from a footballing perspective, well, from a player and staff perspective, that is pushing for Mason Greenwood to be back. But I wonder if Ten Hag's doing that on players' behalf. But yeah, like I say, it's pure speculation. But it's not just the executive branch which is so problematic here. And like I said on the last show, for Ten Hag to be so adamant clearly about him coming back, it's really horrible. Like, the whole situation is really horrible. It's horrible to be associated with United right now. The best thing about this week is that the pressure that is now on United to reverse their decision, to U-turn on what they were going to do, seems enormous now. Like, if they go and follow through with bringing Greenwood back after what's come out this week, then it feels like an insane move. But I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. But yeah, I think that like the best thing about like this week is that the reaction has just been, I guess heartwarming. Like it's fueled so much anger inside of me and around so many of our fans and so many of the Twitterati and fans of other clubs. But yeah, it is also heartwarming to see such a reaction, because I said on the show last week, I thought the reaction, the opinion was maybe 50-50, but seeing it this week, then maybe it isn't. Maybe actually like good is winning out here.
Well, I did say on Twitter that I thought that the chances of United backtracking had increased substantially as a result of Wednesday. And I think that the club thought they could control the narrative by going first. They made it much worse. And they made it much worse because they looked craven and they looked out of touch with what the United fan base might be. They think, and it may well be that they are too online, I think they think that the rampant misogyny that rears its very ugly head on Twitter and other spaces, social spaces, is the dominant and prevailing narrative around this. And it turns out that it's not. Actually, those who are most in support of the club and not just the team, and I think those are two different things sometimes, are very strongly against Greenwood coming back. And that has been shown in polling from The Athletic. I know that Rainbow Devils have also done some polling, and Manchester United Supporters Trust as well. And I think there's a fairly consistent view there. And to come back to your point on Ten Hag, in a sense, before everyone gets angry, let me get to the end of the sentence. In a sense, I'm sympathetic to him, because he's a football coach and he's probably thinking, hey, how can I get the best possible team out there and best possible chance of success? And I always get the sense with him that he's intensely 24/7 football. So that's my only caveat. Now, of course, he's got personal form in being very supportive of Mark Overmars, who was, if we want to recall, sending dick pics to people at Ajax. Hey, Eric, just a bit of advice here. Distance yourself from wrong-uns like that. And my defence of him is mild. Mostly, I wish, of course, he turned around and said, absolutely no way, I don't want this person back in my club. I heard that audio. I've read the transcript. I saw the pictures. That's not the kind of team and atmosphere I want to build. Also, I mean, again, on the theme of splitting executive and football, it seems that Murtaugh, from the reporting, is fully supportive of bringing Greenwood back too. And so in the club, you have this alignment between the executive branch. You obviously see £100 million asset, and he is that. If you look at the cost of players at the moment, young player, forward, scores goals, can be absolutely brilliant. £100 million asset, and the football side of things, who wants the player. But in none of this, and if you read that statement word by word, and I read it too many times, none of this are they really thinking about the victim here. And I don't even think we need to use the word alleged when we say victim. It may not have reached the bar for criminal prosecution for reasons, i.e. she didn't want to testify, but I don't think that's our bar here, is it? And none of it did they think of her. Not once has anyone at Manchester United thought about her. They thought about, and they didn't even, the unbelievable, awful doublespeak in that statement where they were like, our duty of care to Mason, who's now our father. I mean, I noticed they stripped that out of some of the replies they were giving to fans who'd written in. But just terrible all around this. Just shocking, spineless lack of leadership.
Yeah, and so many people have said what I'm about to say, but that particular point that they have a duty of care to Mason Greenwood. What about Axel Tuanzebe, who they let go in the summer, who they released on a free, who had been plagued with injuries for the past 3 or 4 years, who'd been at the club since a similar time of age to Mason Greenwood? It just it's laughable. Like, hundreds of players throughout the club have been released from United probably over the summer, from including all the age groups. Like, what?
Older players who are broke. The club does fuck all for them. Yeah, they don't care about the duty of care. And in fact, really, just ask yourself this. I mean, sorry. Like, if this was a youth team player who was of zero value to the club, he'd be gone in an instant. We know that is true, right? So the duty of care piece is absolute bollocks. It's a lie, and nobody is falling for it. Yeah,
it's the worst line in No. It's the worst line in that whole. Yeah, just ridiculous statement. But I can't. There's so many strands to this, which, like, I feel really sorry for the women footballers who are going to be gearing up for their best day of their lives on Sunday, and maybe on Monday they might be, or maybe straight after the game, hopefully not, but like on Monday they might be asked about this because it will still be hanging over the club. Like, I feel sorry for them. I feel sorry for the players in the club. I feel like the sympathy argument with Ten Hag is an interesting one. But then, like, looking at this from a purely footballing perspective, what's to say that this Mason Green was going to be any good anyway? Like, he's not played.
That's true.
He's not played football with other people. He might have done some training in the park, which we all saw, where he looked actually pretty shit. But he won't have actually played against another professional footballer for 18 months. What's to even say that he'll be any good? Which makes, to me, like, this whole situation even more ridiculous. Like, you're putting the club's reputation in such... Well, you're tarnishing the club's reputation so drastically for a footballer who, was great 18 months ago. Man, I said great. He was good and had a lot of potential to be great. But a footballer who hasn't played for 18 months, and you think he's just going to be amazing as soon as he walks back through? Like, what are you doing? I don't understand.
I know. I mean, just imagine, and I guess it's still in doubt whether he comes back just because of the blowback and how sensitive the club is to PR. Remember Marko Arnautovic, who they wanted to bring in until everyone pointed out he was a racist. Yeah. Yes. Imagine Mason comes back and he's rubbish, and they've just destroyed the club's reputation for that.
Like that.
So, that, by the way, is not to justify bringing him back if he's brilliant. I'm not saying that, just to be clear. But
but like that easily could happen. And you're laying all your morals at the side for this risk, which is a risk. Like it's not like you're bringing back prime Cristiano Ronaldo into the team. You're bringing back, like I say, a guy who doesn't play for 18 months. I mean, like I say, I
bringing
don't
back
really
aging
want to.
Cristiano Ronaldo was a problem, wasn't it?
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, this club have form. Like someone, I think it was on Second Captains, made this really good point. There's obviously a similar case, not quite as public, hanging over Anthony right now.
Yes.
And I think the point that Ken Early made on Second Captains was he wonders if United are maybe don't want to kind of be super aggressive on this, saying a player like who has done what Mason Greenwood has done can't play for this club based on, I know they're not really allegations, but something that hasn't been proven in court, when Anthony is facing very, very similar type of accusations from his ex-partner as well. Like Cristiano Ronaldo, like we all know what was written down in those Las Vegas police files. Marko Arnautovic, who we were linked with, who had history. I mean, we still had Ryan Giggs in the director's box not too long ago.
Box. Yeah.
Like, and what does that kind of say to? Yeah, are United kind of making a bed for themselves by being so forthright with this when they've got form on potentially an £80 million player that they might have to chuck out the window? Like,
it's hard to be conclusive on Anthony. Of course, there's very little detail. There was the one report of an accusation, but nothing beyond that. And I don't even know that he's been interviewed by police or anything like that. So whether it went any further. So it's really hard to say, isn't it? Like, and that's not me defending him. Obviously, if he's been abusive towards his girlfriend, then that's really fucking serious. But we don't know any details at all. Mm-hmm. And no one has said a thing about that one. So it's really hard to make the comparison. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's a fair point. I mean, the club is probably worried about where they drawn the line here, because if they set a precedent of kicking a player out of the club or firing him and potentially facing the cost of paying up that contract, then they might have to keep doing that. Of course, the club is not going to do that, and we know they were not going to do that because they brought back Ronaldo, who's a self-confessed rapist. So it's, I mean, that I can say, right? There's no allegation. He wrote it down. His own deposition. He wrote it down and signed off on it. He didn't want anyone to know that, but he did. And so, yeah, of course. I mean, in a sense, football is a deeply cynical industry, and of course, if it was you or me that had faced these allegations with the same kind of public evidence, we'd be gone in a microsecond. And if it was a youth team player, they'd be gone. If it was a coach, they'd be gone. If it was a women's team player, they'd be gone. It's because he's £100 million asset. And that's the only reason why he's not gone. And he's got a £75,000 a week contract, and they're worried about having to pay that up as well as losing the value in their asset. It's a financial decision, and you can see that behind every dumb decision they've made. The extreme length of time they've taken for their quote-unquote investigation, which I presume he's not going to have unearthed his girlfriend, who we're still not naming. I'm sure they didn't interview her and she said, "Oh no, I made it all up." Or it was AI that made the audio, or like, you know, that is not going to be what has been said. And it's taken all this time, and through every part of this, they've been thinking, as we now know, how do we get away with bringing him back? How do we minimise the blowback? To even to the point of Adam Crafton's report today, which has details on their plan to bring him back, including a red, amber, green checklist of who might be supportive and who might be unsupportive, including listing battered women's charities as I forgot what the word they used here, as not supportive.
Hostile, I think it was.
Hostile, without ever having talked to them. They're the first people they should have talked to if they wanted to bring Mason Greenwood back. How do we rehabilitate this guy? What should we do? How can we be supportive to his girlfriend, the mother of his child? You know, what is the appropriate thing to do here? Not label them as hostile. Fucking disgraceful.
Yeah. And to kind of bring this back to a football thing, like the timing of this is insane. And this all is because it's a financial decision. It's a commercial decision, because the reports that they didn't do this earlier in the tour is because they didn't want it in the summer, is because they didn't want it to damage the commercial tour that they were going on. They didn't want all the questions.
Oh no, shit, guys! What do they want? Mason Greenwood doing interviews with DXC or TeamViewer?
And then also because like the Women's World Cup is on at the moment, they don't want to like cloud that, so that they couldn't have done it before the season started, after the tour had been on, and now they can't because they've obviously the World Cup finals on Sunday. I mean, like how much this damages the team as well. Like, I mean, it's probably one of the lowest priorities, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. But you just think to the players who don't want him in. I mean, there must be players in that dressing room who don't want him back, don't want to be associated with him, don't want him around the dressing room. I hope
some of them have some ethics. Yeah,
you would hope. Yeah, you would hope. I mean, I say there must be, but I mean, we spoke about lad culture last week.
As we saw with Benjamin Mendy, right?
Oh my God. And you wonder as well, like, I mean, you look at how the reaction has been today, like unanimously against United and unanimously against Greenwood. But you wonder if they bring Greenwood back, like what the reaction will be. Surely it won't be anything like what we saw with Benjamin Mendy, because I guess the publicists of the footballers must be like saying, don't get involved in this, because you know what type of reaction you're going to get. But yeah, it's the amount of uproar and discombobulation it must have caused the dressing room is untold as well. And I know Ten Hag looks very single-minded in the way that he operates, but this must be affecting him as well. And I mean, the thing you would have hoped throughout this whole situation was if he'd had said he didn't want Greenwood back in the squad, Greenwood wouldn't be back in the squad. Like I said last week,
they would have been thinking about trying to sell him or loan him out or something, probably. I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't have sacked him because of the financial implications. But yeah. No, you're right. If Ten Hag had said no, then it would have been a lot simpler for the club all round. And not saying they would do the right thing, because clearly they wouldn't, but it would have been a lot simpler. I mean, 2 points I wanted to make. You're right about there are so many strands here, and it's very hard to separate them all, isn't it? But
you kind of want to explore them all as well without kind of forgetting things at the end.
Yeah, absolutely right. The argument that is often made is, well, he has a contract, how could we sack him? But they all have morality clauses in there. The standard Premier League template has a morality clause, and I'm quite sure, given the types of offences that players have been sacked for, that United could have sacked him because of the evidence that's out there. The bar is much lower. It's on the balance of probabilities. If it had gone to the court, on the balance of probabilities, was this gross misconduct? On the balance of probabilities, did this breach your morality clause? Not the high bar that you get in a criminal case.
And that's what. Just on that point, that's what United almost seem to like be operating at this point, like that high like criminal point. It's like they're not operating like it's a gross misconduct trial. They're operating like it's a criminal trial. It seems, at least from afar. Yeah, sorry.
Or at least they'd like it to be like that. I mean, maybe they were like, well, we need to find a smoking gun evidence that he did this, that we'd be able to convict him in a court of law in order to say no to bringing him back. Or they'd like push that narrative, because that narrative is one that does appeal to people. He's not guilty, therefore that's the only bar. And I think that's wrong. I think that's wrong for football generally to have that bar. I think as a community of fans, of clubs, of pundits, of people watching the game, we need to have a lower, better bar than crime that's the cutoff. Yeah. If you're a criminal, you can't be in our game. And that goes for players, that goes for owners. I mean, we had that test with owners. The only reason you'd be rejected is if you don't have the money or if you're a criminal. Everything else goes. And we need to be better than that. You know, the fact is, these are role models. These are people with a public profile. They are in the public eye, and all of that matters.
Absolutely.
And the other thing, because that reminds me, another point I wanted to make. And because I see this so often online, or people are saying this, well, he's not guilty, so therefore it's okay. And or she's forgiven him, therefore it's okay. And both of these, easy to push back on. Like less than 1% of rape cases result in a conviction. It's really hard. It's often he said, she said, not enough evidence. In this case, we had more evidence than normal. Right? No. Yeah. Fuck you, you twat. I'm going to... No, that is... It's horrible, the audio. And we had more evidence than normal. So there's a very, 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 very low conviction rate. And I think that is to do with how difficult it is, and institutional misogyny, and the fact that people don't believe women, and all of that, right? And I had another point which I've completely forgotten in my anger, but I think that's it's really important to push back on that. Oh, and also about the violence against women. So charities say that on average, and I think Dan made this point on the last pod, abused women will go back to the partner 7 times before they finally leave. And one of the most significant reasons, is that a woman is highly likely, or much, much more likely, not highly likely, much more likely to be severely abused, or in fact murdered, when they leave an abusive partner. Right? And I'm not saying Mason Greenwood is about to murder his partner. I'm not saying that, right? But there is fear. There's a lot of reasons why abused women stay with their partners, or they love their partner and they don't want to lose that, or they don't know where they go next, or whatever reason it is. There are many reasons, and I really hope, but statistics would say otherwise, that we don't get a repeat of this.
Yeah, it's because in so many of these cases that women have been so beaten psychologically because it's not always just physical abuse. It's often mental abuse that goes alongside this. So the women have been beaten so psychologically by their partner that they don't have any confidence that they can survive without them, because in so many cases the man in the relationship has told them that they can't. So if they leave, how can they move on with their life? Like you say, they still love their partner despite what they've done, and they also have this complete lack of confidence in being able to move on, being able to move away. And that's not even taking into account that, like you say, the threat that will come, that they will be further beaten, they will be potentially killed. That the threat that potentially the man has said that they'll kill themselves if the woman leaves. Like, there's all these things that go into that needs to be taken into account. And for people not to acknowledge that, the people who make those arguments, it's just willful ignorance. Like, there's enough information out there these days that points to the fact that, like you say, 1% of rape cases go to end up in a conviction, or the fact that women keep going back to their partners because of the psychological abuse that they've encountered in the relationship. It is just willful ignorance, either because I guess maybe some people have these tendencies themselves, or they don't want to face up to what happens in society, or because of the rampant misogyny that we encounter on a day-to-day life, on a day-to-day basis in our lives. And it's really, it's truly sad, but unfortunately it's the reality of our world, and it has been for millennia, I guess. Because the patriarchal society isn't just something that's existed in the last 50 years. Its roots.
Oh God, no!
Its roots are so deep.
Its roots are deep.
That's why it's so difficult to move past this, and that's why people who kind of push back on the existence of a patriarchal society, I mean, they're obviously complete clowns, but it is subtle in the way that it moves, and I mean, I guess this isn't a very subtle case, but the fact that it hasn't just ended in Greenwood being thrown out of the club shows that the misogyny is still so ever present in our lives.
Institutionalized, yeah.
Yeah.
The Romans didn't have a word for rape because it was so deeply ingrained into society. It's, as you say, millennia. Little Roman history there, being a Roman history nerd. But yeah, it's deep. I mean, there are still countries today, some of which own football clubs, where rape is basically acceptable. So it's the whole situation is deeply, deeply sad, and it's brought out the worst of humans, both at the club and outside. But also a surprising number of people pushing back and saying, no, we can't accept this. Yep. You know, fans groups, individual fans online, media who are digging into it, charities, people who work in this area. So, I think that is important. That unfortunately, in an awful situation, but people have rallied round and said, "Hey, no, so enough is enough."
One point I did see on someone make on Twitter though is that though there has been a lot of people come out against United, and hopefully many more will come out over the next few days, there's been a real shocking and significant silence from the ex-players at United. Like, maybe I guess
surprised.
The players are obviously in a difficult position, but the ex-players of United, they comment on the team's performances all the time. But yeah, we've not seen them. Well, actually, in some cases, I remember reading an interview with Nicky Butt where he spoke about, it would be nice to have Greenwood back. This was about 2 or 3 months ago. I saw Wayne Rooney say a similar type of thing in The Athletic about a month ago. I mean, the only actual response to it has been people saying, oh yeah, it would be great to have him back in the squad. We haven't seen anyone, not that I can think of off the top of my head, ex-United player come out and say, yeah, we can't have this moral stain back in our football club.
Unfortunately, I think, football is such a macho world. I think there's deep-grained misogyny, but also, if you see the response to the Benjamin Mendy, why were players, hundreds of them, so supportive after it? And we should say, we mentioned Mendy. He was found not guilty on 6 charges, but when that second trial concluded, hundreds of players, either on Twitter or Instagram, long posts from Memphis Depay, completely tone-deaf post, came out in support of him. Why is that? Is that because they fear being in a similar position? Is that because they somehow think that they have a right to own these assets, women, their wags and all of that kind of stuff? There's something in the psychological makeup of this industry, these players in the dressing room, that has pushed players to groupthink like that, and that's deeply worrying too.
It feels like they almost think they're under threat, like they're the ones who are in the precarious and vulnerable position right now, like not women of the world.
You see a lot of men behave like that. They think,
oh yeah,
look, it's really simple, guys. If you're thinking this at the moment, oh, maybe one day I could be accused. It's really simple. Don't do any raping. Don't do it. It's not hard.
Yeah.
I'm 47 years old. I've managed to get through my life without doing that. It really wasn't difficult. So, and I know I'm being glib there, but it's actually quite simple. There aren't, so the flip side of 1% of women, 1% of accusations of rape resulting in conviction is that some people believe that the other 99% were completely fabricated.
Yeah.
And that thousands of women are just making stuff up because it's so nice as a process to have your life picked apart. The justice system now allows anonymity, thank fuck, because it didn't used to.
Mm-hmm. Women
were openly destroyed in court. But it's still not set up to support the victims. And you see that in the makeup of people who somehow, will argue it was just made up. You see, especially in the Mendy case, just the bottom half of the internet, which is the entirety of Twitter, entirely men going, look, they made it all up. So.
And that bottom half of the internet, to take this back to United, is who United are pandering to right now. That they are the people that United
that's the global
are pandering
audience,
to. Yeah. But those idiots who people wouldn't take seriously if you spoke to them in the pub or you spoke to them on the street, they're the people that United, by attempting to bring back Mason Greenwood, are actually pandering to. Not the people who have any moral decency or intellect or intelligence, I guess. It's more than that. It's more than just having intelligence. It's obviously having a moral compass. But that's what's also so frustrating about this whole scenario, that we're always in a culture war, like in our society, and it feels like by putting Greenwood back into this squad, another notch goes onto the blackboard of the bad if they win this. Like it just feels like another win.
I'd love to see the Venn diagram of Greenwood supporters, Qatar supporters, and blue ticks on Twitter, because I think it may be a circle. So I can't help but have some gallows humour about all of this, but it's really serious.
Oh yeah,
and institutions have been permanently damaged through this kind of horrendous leadership, and that's what this is. And I don't suppose that, I know we have some listeners at the club and good people. I don't suppose Richard Arnold does listen, but if you do, Richard, resign, do the right thing, do it today. You fucked up, dude, and you are the CEO.
Yeah, I'm sure many people agree with that as well.
The CEO of NatWest Bank had to resign just because a memo went around saying, oh, maybe this is not a good customer. Nigel Farage. All right. I don't know how we transition into talking about football after that, but I feel like one of those Sunday morning shows or daytime TV shows.
Yeah, can you remember that Mel Brooks?
There was horrific double murder, with people stabbed 15 times in the face. Now let's move to the happy family story about a brand new baby panda in the local zoo.
There's a great when Mel Brooks is on the one show and they do exactly that, and he's just like, this show, oh my God. They literally just go from like him talking about his story to like some like brother who'd not seen his other brother in like 40 years, like meet up on the show or whatever. Oh dear, that's very amazing. Good. And he was like 91 at the time as well, so
right,
pure Mel.
Yeah, just it nails that all the time. He would have something to say about this, no doubt. Mm-hmm. All right, United are playing Spurs on Saturday. Mason Greenwood will not be in the squad for that one unless he rush through something at this point. I mean, I don't suppose this will actually impact preparation for this game. I mean, it's probably just all noise on the outside, and the players and a Ten Hag will just shut that out. But it's not exactly ideal as a narrative surrounding the club right now. But playing Spurs on Saturday, really crap performance against Wolves on Monday. Just really, really bad. Looked like they weren't prepared at all, despite having 8 pre-season games, which is a little odd.
Yeah.
Will they be better prepared for this one? You'd hope so.
It can't be any worse. We can't be any worse than what we saw on Monday. I mean, we've obviously had some bad results and bad performances at Old Trafford down the years, but that must be one of the worst performances where we've actually won a game. I can't remember us playing that badly and winning against a crap team as well. Let's be honest. Like, obviously, like a few of their players play well, like Mateus and Cunha as well. Like, Cunha was awesome, but like we were just shocking. And Tottenham looked all right, I thought, against Brentford. Like, not
Brentford, yeah,
not amazing, but I think they'll be a solid team under Ange. I really rate him as a coach and as a bloke. He seems like a really sound lad. I wonder how his.
He does. I kind of like to have a pint with him. Not many managers I'd say that about, but
he does. Just seem like he's like someone. And I mean, if he was at any other club apart from Spurs, I'd like to see him do really well, because he just seems like one of the good guys. I am sure someone who can dig up some dirt on Ange that would probably paint him in a bad light, because pretty much every single person in football is flawed. But I'm sure they won't be bad at all tomorrow. When we've got a good history at Tottenham's new stadium, which is nice. But after Monday's performance, it's hard to have too much confidence in the team. Obviously, we won't be anywhere near as open in the middle as we were in that game. Like, it was just absolutely ridiculous. Casemiro needs some help. clearly in the centre midfield. But yeah, like I say, it's too.
Yeah.
But they're, like I say, like they're not a bad side, but without Kane, they're obviously a different animal entirely. They're not a great side either.
No, I mean, I'm sure they'll have some consistency of system now. They're going to try and play more attacking football than under Conte, Mourinho, and Nuno. Just three of the most un-Spurs appointments ever.
Yeah.
The surprise in it going wrong and the supporters hating it is zero. But so they will have that. They've obviously lost 30 goals in Harry Kane. They're going to try and spread it around, I guess. Does that work? I don't know. Can Richarlison get his conversion rate up? I don't think so. So I think that will be a loss to them. I'm not sure that they basically spent all the money. I'm not sure that it's going to compensate for the loss of Kane. They seem to have bought decently. They bought a couple of younger defenders, Van der Velde and the left back who was good, whose name I completely forget now. And Maddison, I think, will be good for them. He's got flaws in his game, but he is creative, does create a lot. He's not an all-rounder, which is why he's not getting in. He's not a trigger for the press, and he's not a sort of all-round midfielder, which is why he doesn't get in the England side. But he is creative, does create a lot of chances. His numbers are really good. He'll have to score more goals, I think, in order to, if Spurs are going to do better. So, yeah, they're a decent side. And the crowd are always up for it when United are there. But as you say, half-decent record there. And we can't be as bad. Just can't be as bad as Monday. Ten Hag. It's not like he needs to read the riot act or anything like that. I don't think it's about motivation. It's about organisation.
Yeah.
The one thing I worry about is that Wolves went through our midfield just so easily. Casemiro looked like he was doing too much. I saw some commentary that basically said, he looks old. I'm not sure that's quite right. He's a year younger than Kevin De Bruyne, right? I don't think Casemiro is suffering from age. I think he's suffering from lack of support.
Yeah.
He was trying to chase three midfielders running past him. So the one thing I worry about is that either repeating itself or Ten Hag swinging back too far the wrong way and bringing in, I don't know, Scott McTominay, pushing Mount to 10 and pushing Bruno out wide, which he's done before. So.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's limited options now in that midfield because, obviously, last season, it's been at the start of last season, it was Casemiro and Eriksen, and Eriksen in pre-season looked a bit like his legs have gone a little bit. So to start him alongside Casemiro in this type of game is, I think, a recipe for disaster as well, because I think they will both get exposed. Mount, his positioning last Monday was interesting. He obviously played very high up, and at Chelsea, that's mostly how he played. He didn't really, he didn't sit beside another midfielder. Whereas we need someone to sit beside Casemiro, I think, right now. And that's, I guess, maybe potentially why we're going for Amrabat, because he can be a little bit more disciplined and help Casemiro out. And I completely agree. I don't necessarily think that Casemiro's legs have gone, but if you put one midfielder against four, which Wolves basically, and Gary O'Neill said this after the game, he basically boxed off that midfield, that centre over the pitch, to have 4 against 1. Yeah, any midfielder in world football is going to get absolutely dominated in that respect. So he does need some help.
Yeah.
But like I say, they just feel like there's a dearth of options now. Like Scott McTominay almost went a few days ago. Seemingly, we've obviously got rid of Fred. The options are very few and far between. I think we do need a centre mid immediately, especially based on what we saw in that first game. Unless United are going to dominate possession in a way that we didn't on Monday. We gave the ball away so often. Our patience was terrible. Bruno obviously made that lovely pass for the Wan-Bissaka goal, but he was so impatient in possession, gave the ball away so often. Our forwards aren't clean enough in possession. They're too chaotic to play that sort of style. So we need someone to sit beside Casemiro, because when we lose the ball, we just get countered to death like we did on Monday. And Spurs have the players, you say, in Maddison, and maybe Richarlison hasn't been that clinical since moving to Spurs, but he can be on his day, and he loves big games. So they have the potential to completely damage us.
Yeah, I'm guessing with the Mount signing, you don't really spend £60 million on a player for them to be just a squad player. I'm guessing that Ten Hag will bring him in as an 8, or maybe goes to a double 8 that he has done in the past with Bruno and Mount pushing up. But as we saw against Wolves, the risk is that Casemiro, maybe not as mobile as we'd like him to be, can't do it all on his own. So can Mount be a build-up player, not just a final third player? And it's not clear to me yet. I mean, obviously Ten Hag believes that can be true and believes that Mount can play there, but that's not really where he played against Wolves. He was further forward. He wasn't in a double pivot. And they're going to have to work out that sort of triangle between them, Casemiro, Mount and Bruno, where they are on the pitch. Because the other thing is that Mount was in Bruno's zone a lot. Yeah. And that didn't quite work either. So they're going to have to work out where specifically Mount plays. And it is going to have to be a bit deeper. And he's going to have to be good with both his positional sense, which he can be, but he hasn't had to be, really. Yeah. It's being a trigger for the press, which he's good at. It's not the same thing as being in the right defensive position to cut off attacks. So he's going to have to do that, as well as be a good progressive passer, get the ball into the right areas of the pitch when United are trying to build up. So there's definitely work to do there.
Which I think
it is a concern.
Yeah, which I think he is good at. I think he is good at progressively passing. But I think the fear was, for many of us when we signed him, was, is he really going to play as a double pivot? Like, is he really going to be the Eriksen replacement? Because that seemed like the logical thing, but then it was also illogical because he hasn't played that much there, and he hasn't been at his best there. Like, his best was floating around in between the lines in those pockets, because he's great at finding space. Like, he's a great space finder. He's a super intelligent player in between the lines. He's creating. He's tidy. He's maybe not as creative as someone like James Maddison or Grealish. He's not as flashy as either of those two, but he's smart. But I don't know if and maybe Ten Hag sees a smartness and an intelligence that can allow him to play in a double pivot, a bit like Eriksen, because Eriksen was never a double pivot until later on in his career. So maybe he does see that Mount can do that. And I guess he does have the intelligence to do that. So maybe it's just going to be something that takes a bit of time to bed in.
Yeah, and he's got this reputation for being a coach's player, that he takes instruction well. And up until very recently, Gareth Southgate loved him. Obviously, that's changed a bit now. But yeah, he has that reputation of coaches seem to love him. And so maybe he'll take instruction well. But yeah, they do have to sort that out. Rashford was off up front, barely touched the ball. That's another question, whether he goes back to the left and they do something else through the middle. Højlund's been training. I'm not sure that he's going to be ready for this one. Martial was even on the bench for the first game. Not sure he was.
Apparently played in a behind closed doors friendly on Tuesday.
Okay, so maybe he'll be ready, maybe not. I mean, like, who knows?
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to rely on this guy, right? So there are limited options there. Don't even have Wout to play up there anymore.
Thank God. Scott McTominay?
Gone back to Wolfsburg, hasn't he?
Yeah.
It's gone with McTominay. Yeah, I mean, they played Jadon Sancho as a false nine, as we discussed before in pre-season.
I thought Sancho was great on one day. Yeah. I thought he was really good when he came on.
Yeah. It was bright.
Yeah.
He actually had a promising pre-season. Not spectacularly good or anything like that. It's not the second coming of Sancho yet, but there was some promising moments. So yes, it's a problem to solve, but you can see why United need a number 9. For Rashford's sake, he was coming deep with his back to goal, and it's just not him.
No.
And he wants the ball in front of him, whether playing as a 9 or a wide forward. He wants the ball in front of him. That's where he does the damage. And unfortunately, we've got a lot of players like that.
Yeah.
Garnacho, one of the most direct players in Europe. Anthony, a bit more comfortable in possession, perhaps. Not that he necessarily does great things with it when he's got it, or consistently at least. But yeah, a lot of players who like the ball into space.
And next week we'd have Greenwood as well.
Shoot.
Oh dear.
Oh man. All right. Good luck to the England women's team. I'm not, as many listeners will not necessarily be that excited about football. International football, that is. I do get more excited during the tournaments, and the England women's team is really gritty, right? They've found a way to get through a lot of difficult games.
Yeah, super likable as well. Like their whole team is super likable, and a coach that is. How can a coach be that likable? Like, I mean, I guess Gareth Southgate is pretty likable as well, but it's gone off the boil a little bit with some of his comments, especially regarding Henderson. But yeah, Wiegman she does seem like one of the good girls as well.
Yeah. Well, good luck to them, and to Mary Earps and to Ella Toone. Fantastic goal she scored against Australia.
Banger.
Right into the top corner. And it's not clear she'll start, of course, because Lauren James is available as well. So a decision to be made there. But she does a really good tournament, Ella Toone.
Yeah, I think she's. I think England's best two performances have come without James. Like, where they weren't good against Nigeria before she got sent off, and then in the two ones that she's missed, like England have really stepped it up, and they really stepped it up against Australia in that semi. I thought they were excellent, and it's going to be such a clash of styles on Sunday. Spain with their classic tiki-taka philosophy, which they have implemented across the men and the women's game to great effect against a team which is very much based on pragmatism. I guess maybe out of necessity because of all the injuries that England have faced. And again, super credit to Wiegman. But yeah, it's going to be some fun, I think. Excited.
Very good. So we'll catch you again next week, guys. Thanks for listening to our ranting.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.